Hey, all my Aquarius friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to talk about Saturn's entry into Pisces and Pluto's tipping its toe into Aquarius this year, 2023. This energy is going to feel dramatically different than it has felt, and I think it's important for each of you to be able to be prepared so that you can take advantage of the higher vibrations of these planets. First of all, I want to let you know these videos are based on whole sign Western astrology. So I'm talking about Aquarius rising. If you don't know your rising sign, you may want to go to one of the free birth calculators. You just need your exact time of birth and location to get your natal chart. Also, when I talk about time zones, I'm talking about the Pacific time zone. So please adjust for your location. So Aquarius, Saturn is going to move into your second house. Saturn by nature is, well, let me start here. Saturn has been in its two signs of rulership for the last 4.5 to 5 years, first traversing Capricorn and then Aquarius. So as it moves into Pisces, the energy shift is going to feel very palatable. And initially, Saturn, which is not considered the most emotional sign, moving into Pisces, which is very emotional, very compassionate, very empathetic, feels a little bit like a clash. And yet at the same time, both of these energies rule history. Saturn rules authority, tradition, history as the human knows it, duty, karma, determination, tenacity, endurance. Capricorn wants to build. Saturn wants to build on what is sustainable. It doesn't particularly care about potential. It is very much represents the father energy, the last seasons of life, otherwise known as old age. It rules the your public status and leadership, as well as your ability to manifest in the material world. With Saturn entering your second house, this is going to be a real review on how you perceive your ability to make money, on your skills, on your self-worth. There's an opportunity here for you to really look at where you may have inadvertently put yourself outside the box, meaning it like this. Pisces represents a sign where we are spending time alone in solitude. It represents the bedroom where we dream. It's a very creative sign. It's imaginative and fanciful, and it represents filmography and photography and creativity in the form of dance and poetry and music. And so it's a very dreamy sign. It's also a bit of a sign that can feel unseen. And Aquarius by nature can sometimes feel unseen because it's so innovative and it's so forward thinking that it can feel a little outside the human structure. So here I think Saturn's influence is going to be about removing any potentials that haven't shown any sustainability. And in doing so, it's going to give you an opportunity to really set down parameters and start to build an opportunity for you to create more wealth, more material gain. Aquarius by nature rules the 11th house, which is a house of money and hopes and dreams. And, you know, as I'm going to talk about in a minute, Pluto's moving into your first house. So we're going to see a real renovation in how you perceive yourself. And as Saturn has been traversing Aquarius for the past 2 years or so, I think it's given you an opportunity to really review what it is you want, where you want to move, what direction you want to move in. You've also got the South Node that has been in your 10th house. So you may find yourself really reviewing your work status or how you present your skills out into the world, including the World Wide Web. Saturn rewards for efforts beyond our emotional comfort. Saturn for me is very much sort of this energy like Coach Boone from Remember the Titans, where he is appearing to be harsh and unfeeling and unyielding, and yet at the same time Saturn sees that long-term gain as we persevere through a chapter that we really don't know what the outcome is going to be, because Pisces rules the unseen. By nature, it rules the 12th house, and that house rules or is often referred to as the house of troubles, the house of self-undoing. The 12th house has a dissolving energy. And in some ways, it can dissolve the borders between me and you, between two entities and fusing them together. And now this is about assessing whether that is actually viable for moving forward and creating the kind of future that you want. That's the way I'm thinking of that. We have Saturn in spending the last few years in its houses of rulership has felt very powerful. So the initial move into Pisces is going to feel a little bit like a wet blanket. Within the year 2023, Saturn is going to move 0 to 7 degrees. It will enter Pisces on March 7th. It will retrograde on the 17th of June. And then in November on the 4th, it will move forward again. I think this 0 to 7 degrees in the year 2023 is pivotal because the year 2023 is a year that is a 7 year. And then we have had a series of full moons. It started with the Aries full moon in the Libra season and will culminate with the Libra full moon in the Aries season. This encompasses the first 7 houses of the zodiac wheel, where we are literally being illuminated and closing the chapters of those energies that are no longer serving our forward motion. The energy of Pisces, while it is creative and compassionate, can also be a little bit overly compassionate and absorbed. So there is a needing to decipher boundaries. Now, Aquarius by nature is not necessarily emotional. And I say that not because don't have emotions. It's because of this scientific imprint, this innovative imprint, this invention, this thinking outside the box. So oftentimes Aquarius may not initially respond to a human emotion in a way that I don't want to make it seem harsh, but I feel as if you might look at things from a more logical point of view, and that logic comes from source energy versus the human experience. So I think that there could be a period of what feels like disruption, but I want to recalibrate that into divine disruption that brings wisdom and understanding so that you can sort of move beyond the energies that are blocking you and move forward in a more succinct way, as Aquarius wants to do. I also think that this is an opportunity for you to build structures to use your own skills and to recalibrate any imprints or patterns that were put upon you as a result of your family experience. The second house is a house where we have our self-worth. And in this particular house, we have learned our importance as a result of our family experience. We also see with the Pisces energy, there is the physical health involved here. This is a place where Pisces rules mental hospitals, it rules regular hospitals, it rules research laboratories, it rules places where people are put in storage in some ways. It rules orphanages, it rules old age homes. There's a real sense of solitude in this energy. It also rules like libraries, places where we're quiet, museums, places that rule history and historic things, but we are quiet and we are absorbing the energy. So I think this is going to be a powerful time for Aquarius to really ascertain and look at the Piscean energy from a place of viability, a place to build upon, trusting an inner knowing, a connection to the divine that maybe you have not nurtured up until now, because you've been looking at things from a more scientific viewpoint, which is very human, versus sort of the spiritual perspective is riddled with I want to say wisdom for the dark experiences that we have. And those dark experiences are often places where we have given up our power to another structure. And when that power or that structure has been dismantled, we feel a little bit like we are lost. We feel directionless. We don't know what to do. So this here is where the Saturnian energy will help build structures where maybe there have not been structures before. But initially, during the year 2021, 2023, I think there's going to be a period of observing and absorbing and assimilating this energy. So as we move into 2024, more succinctly can you build the house of your comfort and the house of your financial fluidity and flow and feeling a sense of thriving there. So I think this is super, super powerful. Pluto will dip its toe into your first house at the 0 degree of Aquarius for a period of time in 2023. It's going to enter Aquarius on the 23rd of March. It will then go retrograde on the 1st of May, eventually on the June 11th, moving back into the last degrees of Capricorn, which is your 12th house, and then moving back into Aquarius in January 2024 for a 20-year stint. This to me is very powerful because that 0 degree is again, with Saturn moving into Pisces, we'll feel that 0 degree for about a week and a half. And then right on the heels of that, we'll start to feel that Plutonian 0 influence, 0 degree influence. And to me, this is like a baby being birthed out of the womb. There's this initial feeling of this cold air. It's sort of shocking and jarring. And yet at the same time, there's a whole new opportunity being presented. And I think that's where looking at Pluto entering your first house is giving you an opportunity to really dig deep into any old imprints that have held you back. There is a little bit of a double-edged sword with Aquarius because you're so innovative and so forward-thinking that oftentimes the traditional human structures want to exile you or to sort of put a blanket on all of that innovation. No, this is how we've always done it, and it can make you feel sort of alone in the world. And I think this is where Pluto is going to start to illuminate these historic imprints for you and give you an opportunity through your awareness to decipher whether or not that imprint is current in this chapter of your life. And I want to offer it this way because Pluto, while it rules a lot of very challenging things for the human experience, death, decay, power and control, the toxic waste that we ingest both physically, emotionally, spiritually, as a result of giving up our power to another structure. This is also through the transmutation of that, we can actually thrive. And this is a house that rules billionaires. And this is the house of the self, the first house for you. So I think this is really an opportunity for you to liberate yourself from some old historic patterns of thought that are actually based on a disempowering platform versus an empowering platform. Let me just look at my notes real quick. Aquarius by nature is the higher, represents a higher octave of Mercury. Uranus represents a higher octave of Mercury. So here, I also feel like there is this sense of genius, this brilliance that comes from these ideas, these new innovative ways that challenge tradition and yet offer us solutions that are untested, they're not tried. And I believe that now you're going to feel a stronger sense as we move forward in this energy of Pluto, of allowing for this transformation, of seeing the wisdom of it. It almost feels as if Pluto would be a natural energy in some ways for Aquarius, because as it digs to the underbelly of the human experience and the structures that have been superimposed upon us as co-creators, the rebellion of Aquarius and the rebellion of Pluto come into play here, because Pluto likes to blow things up so that we can transform them. So I think that you're going to reinvent yourself over the next couple of decades, and we're just going to see the beginnings of that in the year 2023. So let's talk about some dates that are going to be significant over the springtime. First, I want to talk about Saturn at the anaretic degree of Aquarius, the 29th degree. This will be in effect from about the 28th of February until Aquarius moves into Pisces on the 7th of March. So we're going to start to feel this awareness of our thoughts. The 29th degree is the Leo degree, but it also reduces down to the master number 11. So your wants and your desires and how you want to birth yourself out into the world, how you want to represent leadership. Leo represents a sense of leadership and a sense of personal pleasure. I feel like this is going to really start to come into play as Saturn leaves its domicile of Aquarius, your ruling house, or your first house, and moves into the second house. So there's going to be this deeper digging into how you think and how those thoughts create things. We also will see Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn for over a month, from the 11th of February all the way through till the day before it moves into Aquarius. And it moves into Aquarius on the 23rd of March. So these anaretic degrees are really bringing this feeling of the culmination of a cycle. And for me, when I go into the Aquarius energy, there's a strong willingness to look at the structures I've built, to look at my history, and to now assess whether it's serving my forward motion or inadvertently pulling me back into old patterns of feeling, outside the box, not feeling supported, not feeling as if I have a real community around me. That's the flip side and the challenge of Aquarius. There is also this feeling of, Aquarius rules the nervous system and Pisces rules the fluids of the body. So I feel like there could be this feeling of electricity in some ways shooting through you as you have these revelations. And I think that this is really a feeling of excitement on some level. And I want to offer Aquarius rising that if you are feeling any anxiety, this is an opportunity to step back and look at the forward motion you're making, and if it is truly aligned to what you want, because I feel like that anxiety is really an alert system from your inner knowing saying, hey, are we really moving the direction we want to move? Are we really fostering the greatest potentials for ourselves in this lifetime? Or are we falling back into old patterns? Because Saturn and Pisces both have that historic dynamic where we could fall into old patterns that make us feel unseen and not valued. All right, so now briefly, I want to just kind of revisit these 0 degrees, because this month of March and this feeling of this newness of moving into these new signs is going to be palatable, as if the weather went from sunny to rainy or rainy to sunny. It's going to be a very palatable shift. So being gentle with yourself, being a little bit fluid. And I want to offer it this way, not only being fluid, but maybe also drinking fluids to help everything continue to move forward, to move succinctly. On the 19th of April at 9:32 p.m. Pacific time, we will have the first eclipse of the season of the year. This is a solar eclipse, and it's at 29 degrees 50 minutes of Aries, which is on the cusp of your 3rd and 4th house. We're going to find that 4th house Taurus energy is going to be a theme coming up for this springtime, as Pluto will be making aspects to Jupiter, moving into Taurus, and we're talking about the 3rd house being the house of my thoughts, of how I absorb my community, my everyday activities, and then Taurus representing the house of home and the house of self-nurturing. So the eclipse there is going to bring I want to say an illumination. We usually save those for the full moons, but there's something about this solar energy making me aware of how I present myself in the world. And I think that's due to the Aries energy, me as an individual. On the 1st of May, Pluto will go retrograde, and this is again at the 0 degree. Pluto is remaining at the 0 degree of Aquarius in 2023, and it is making a square to the nodes. And this isn't any one day. This is actually a full period of time, as Pluto moves to the early degree of Aquarius, that 0 degree, and then back into Capricorn. It's making a square to the nodes in the early degrees of Scorpio, Taurus, and then further moving into the Aries, Libra axis. So this is going to be sort of a tense conversation. I always think of the squares as sort of this tense conversation between an old patterned way of me thinking, almost a unconscious pattern, a reactionary way of thinking and feeling and operating, versus an evolved version of me having an intentional thought, being aware of my initial emotional response, and then determining whether or not I want to act out on that. And that's what creates this tense conversation. And we're going to see a series of these energies coming back and forth throughout 2023, illuminating that tension, which is actually working for us rather than against us, because it's bringing in awareness. On the 5th of May, we will have a lunar eclipse at 14 degrees Scorpio. This is in your 10th house. This lunar eclipse is going to bring the culmination of a cycle. And I believe that we're going to see the real power of this coming, because the sun is at 14 degrees in an exact conjunction to Uranus, your ruling planet, in your 4th house of home. And this is how I feel nurtured, how I nurture myself, how I trust my inner being, and the imprint that my family and maternal experience had upon me. So I think this is super important, because this is going to play back to the eclipse season in the fall of 2022, when we were seeing the eclipses on the Taurus Scorpio axis. So that's super important. On the 16th, Pluto continues its retrograde motion, and now it's making a square to Jupiter, as Jupiter enters your 4th house of Taurus and is starting to make a conjunction to the North Node. This could make you feel very, again, that tense conversation of a square, and wanting to really renovate and have a new experience when it comes to your home environment. Maybe as a child, you had a challenging home life, and now you want to create something that is the opposite of that. So this is where Jupiter is going to have you revisiting, expanding upon, infusing in good luck and wealth and new beliefs and faith in your 4th house activities. And a lot of this also feels like playing to your intuitive being, to, the 4th house is normally ruled by the moon. The moon ebbs and flows. It rules the body's, the fluids of the body as they ebb and flow. Oftentimes we'll see a woman and her cycle, sync up with the moon. So paying attention to that, because we still have Saturn in Pisces in your 2nd house, affecting your physical apparatus and the fluids within it. On the 20th of May, we will see Mars finally excitedly moving into a fire sign. It will be at the 0 degree of Leo, which is your 7th house, making an opposition to Pluto retrograde in your 1st house, which makes a T-square to Jupiter and the North Node in your 1st house. So this is going to be an evaluation of how you're interacting in your partnerships, whether we are creating harmony and diplomacy and peace and balance in our partnerships, and how that reflects you as an individual. And again, here there's this feeling on some level of this polarity. And at the same time, I think that Mars and Pluto are always cooperative, as they co-rule transformational Scorpio. So here we're having a desire to express myself, to be myself, to enjoy myself. This is all Leo energy, to have fun, to feel more romance, maybe even potentially in your relationship. And I think that this is important, to not just look outside of yourself as to what's coming towards you, but how you're co-creating. This influence of Mars entering your 7th house is going to be felt from a little bit before it actually enters. So as it leaves Cancer, so we'll feel it from about the 16th until the 28th of May. We have on the 2nd of June, Saturn in Pisces in your 2nd house is now sextiling Jupiter at 3 degrees conjunct the North Node. And now this is making a trine to the South Node in Scorpio in your 10th house. Scorpio 10th house. Yes. And so I really feel like, again, here we're seeing this cooperative energy that's happening as we're looking at our history. We're defining where the roles have been blurred, the lines have been blurred, the boundaries have been blurred. And now I have new faith and hope in how I can potentially shift that energy to be more authentic to myself. And I think this is really going to be supported both within your interior body and seen by the outside world as it is observed through Scorpio's 10th house energies. On the 11th of June, we have Pluto re-entering your 12th house of Capricorn, and this will be really revisiting any ancestral influences, past life influences, any places you've sequestered yourself and put yourself aside. And as you assess those energies and actually step into a place of non-judgment, just a piece of information, almost as if you were a scientist. And when it moves forward again in October and ultimately re-enters your first house in January, you have an opportunity to really garnish, now I'm talking emotional reward, where you have looked at Pluto's energy in Capricorn, and you've been able to transform the deepest parts of the psychological imprint into a place of garnishing wisdom and understanding how that challenging dynamic, how that toxic energy is serving you moving forward. It's kind of where we turn that excrement from poop into manure, and the manure makes the garden grow. On the 17th of June, Saturn will go retrograde until November. And on the next day, the 18th, it will now be making in its retrograde, Saturn retrograde at 7 degrees Pisces, will make a sextile to Jupiter at 7 degrees Taurus. The fourth house is your Taurus, and Pisces is your second house. I believe this is where you reinvent the beliefs about yourself as a result of how you've experienced your family, what they have done to serve you. Challenging dynamics also serve us, propel us to move forward. I also think that this will have something to do with your skills and your creativity and your willingness to take that creativity and move it out into a bigger platform. And when I say platform, I'm not necessarily just talking about other people observing it, but a platform for yourself, a larger platform within your ability to create, expanding that fourth house, nurturing, self-nurturing, that intuitive knowing. All of this Saturnian energy may actually be playing out more on an interior level than an exterior level as you recalibrate your family experience to see how it has served you to be so powerful in this moment. Because I believe Aquarius is very powerful, and I believe that these transits are asking you to step into that power as Pluto enters your first house in 2024. So these are all these elements and dynamics that Saturn and Pluto are moving through in the spring are giving us, again, a glimpse of what is to come. So we're pulling out pieces of information rather than sitting in judgment of those pieces of information. And in sitting in observation of them, it gives us an opportunity to innovate and to be inventive moving forward and to be more self-assured moving forward. So that's it for my Aquarius. Please join me Sunday mornings live at 11 a.m. Pacific time for our, where we look at the transits of the week ahead and we get the angels' advice. I do a little bit of angel reading and tarot during that period of time. And if you'd like to book a reading with me, my information is below. And I forgot what I was going to say. So I'll be back soon, everybody. Oh, please like, please subscribe, please hit that notification bell. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you, my Aquariuses. I look forward to seeing you soon. Peace out.